Welcome to the Persona 25th Anniversary panel. I'm your host, Spencer Presley. If you somehow think, God, can you imagine this guy talking on a weekly basis? I have bad news. I have a weekly podcast where I just do this and somehow people listen, called Shin Megami Tensei Network. So if you ever want more of this in your life, I'm sorry, it's there for you.
You look like you have a podcast.
I do. You know what? I am a white guy with brown hair. All I need is the glasses, and I've taken all those boxes. So we are going to start off here. Quick run through for the series. If you have any memories for any of these games or a question about them, raise your hand. Feel free to share. If you want to say something, though, just loud and project it as much as you can. So all the way back in 1996, we have Revelations Persona. Revelations, for all of you who may or may not remember, was the Gaijin version of, Shin Megami Tensei is a mouthful, so let's just call it Revelations. Does anyone remember the only other game that had that title? Revelations the Demon Slayer, a Game Boy and Game Boy Color game back in the 90s. It's okay. You're allowed to have forgotten that one. So, Revelations released 1996 on the PlayStation 1 and was a really interesting kind of release, especially if you followed past SMT games. It took a lot of interesting steps from Shin Megami Tensei If and other games like that. Something most other people don't know is that it actually had a PC release in 1999. It got like a big box Japanese release. And the PC port is okay, but it's one of those weird things of history that unfortunately, Atlas Japan is not cool enough to put this on good old games, so we're probably not going to see that PC port ever come back. But if you're out there and you're a PC snob, it is out there. So next up, we have the Persona 2 duology. We have Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment. Where you guys land? Are you guys Innocent Sin or Eternal Punishment fans? Which one had Hitler? Trick question. He wasn't in it. It was the Führer, because that's legally distinct. If you put glasses on Hitler, he's not Hitler.
Maybe the Führer is a title, not Hitler himself. There are other.
That's true. That's true. They were cool guy aviators, otherwise known as things that make Twitter.
No, he really wore glasses. He just didn't wear them in public.
You know what?
This is well documented. I'm a Hitler expert.
I appreciate that. You're not the only one in here. My good friend sitting in here, I will point at but not say his name. Shout out to him. Last month was like, hey, you know what's on 420, don't you? I was like, no, I don't. Hitler's birthday. And I'm like, why? Why was I like, that's not even like a fun fact. Like, oh, sweet. Although I will say it did lead to a banger tweet, because Labrys's birthday is also on 420. And so, as part of the Persona 25th anniversary, they've been celebrating every fictional character's birthday in universe. So I was like, I don't think they're going to give a shout out to our boy, the Führer. He's got a birthday on 420, but everyone at least was a fan of my very dumb joke for that. So you're not the only Hitler expert in here. Thank you. So Innocent Sin released in 1999, 3 years after the first Persona, and was basically just a larger step up in terms of graphics, presentation, story, everything else like that. And what was so fun about it was, this is one of those rare instances of a game story being put into two. It's part of a duology, but it doesn't feel like you're only getting half of a story. It doesn't feel like, oh God, dude, I've got to play one before I play the other. They definitely complement each other, but because in the West, as some of you may know, we only got Eternal Punishment. Obviously, it would have been nice if we got Innocent Sin. There were a lot of reasons at Atlas West at the time that they chose to skip Innocent Sin and go to Eternal Punishment. The thing about it, though, that was always interesting was you could still enjoy that story. It just kind of always added on to it. So while we'll get to a Western version of Innocent Sin eventually, it's not like it's one of those situations of like, okay, you gave us the last half of a trilogy. It was just always kind of like almost like a Final Fantasy III situation or a Final Fantasy V situation of like, it's a game we missed, but it's not like you had to play it. It's just something that enhanced your experience with it, especially with the characters of Innocent Sin, how they play into Eternal Punishment and vice versa. So it is one of those fun games of like, you can definitely do it, and I think most people out there have probably played Eternal Punishment. Unfortunately, OG Eternal Punishment is not available in the West, at least legally in English. Innocent Sin is not available legally. Eternal Punishment still is. You can download it on your PlayStation 3, PSP, or Vita. Yeah.
I actually have Innocent Sin on my PS Vita that I bought.
That would be the PSP remake.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the original. So they are different in terms of like voice acting, presentation, stuff like that, animated cutscenes. But yeah, most people will probably play the PSP one and then the PS1, and the only thing you'll wonder is, boy, that sequel's a lot uglier and stuck in 4x3. Tiny bit of hope. Has anyone here been paying attention to the very confusing new PlayStation Plus tiers that are happening this month in Asia, next month in Japan? So they're adding PlayStation 1 games to PS4 and PS5 with trophies, rewind features, lot of filter and cool presentation modes. Because Eternal Punishment's there, I think this is the one that's the most believable of getting it on there, because that's already on the PlayStation Store. And the cool thing is, if you have already bought it, or if you plan on buying it, it'll be basically future-proofing like cross-buy. So if you bought it on the PS3 or PS1 or whatever, stuff like that, it'll work on your PS4 and PS5. So hopefully we see Atlas support for stuff like that. None of it's really confirmed. It's been kind of confusing for regional differences, but if you're someone out there who's like, I would like to play this, and I'd like to play it legally, there are hopefully alternatives coming. And also going back to Persona 1, if you hate yourself, I guess, if you want to play the original Revelations Persona, does anyone here know the last way that was legally released in the West? It was a couple of years ago. Yes?
Wasn't it the PlayStation, like the little,
You got it.
The like straight to TV connect?
That's close enough. Yeah, it was the PlayStation Classic.
Yeah.
So it came with a bunch of terribly emulated PlayStation 1 games, great games, but a lot of really weird emulation issues and stuff like that. And Revelations Persona, I guess, lost a bet and had to be put on there, and not the other probably better Persona games put on there. But it's cool that the first one was there for history's sake. So next up, one you guys probably have a little bit more familiarity with, Persona 3. This is when I imagine you all would cheer or boo. So we're Switzerland neutral in here. Yes. Yes. So Persona 3 released in 2006 in Japan, 2007 on PS2 in the West. I think Europe got it maybe like 17 years later. Europe always got games really late for no reason over there. Persona 3, as a lot of you guys know, set the standard for what kind of modern Persona really is, especially in a 3D rendered environment. You had things like social links, you had the very much more pronounced visual styles, the characters, the stories, the way everything worked with it. And this was a game that was in development for a really long time, because Atlas went through many iterations. And you can actually look, there is a very early beta version of Persona 3 that is from a top-down perspective, like Persona 1 and 2, where it doesn't look like a game you'd want to have played, but it's cool that they were doing steps along the way there. But yeah, does anyone here have any, well, I'm trying to think, does anyone here know what the FES stands for? Festival is correct. We'll get to it later. Do you guys know that the Persona 25th FES Festival is happening right now in Japan? And at least according to Twitter, is just a bunch of really cool things to look at with cutout standee of character arts, and I'm like, I feel less jealous now. I was kind of expecting it to be more of like a festival, but considering Japan is locked down and we can't be there, it's nice that we're not that jealous. So Persona 3 and FES were really, really big milestones for the series in terms of not only critical reception, but also performance. These were some of the highest sold games for the franchise, and was one that definitely sold a lot with word of mouth and over time. Still definitely in that niche category. I would say, like, at that time, Tales of was still probably more popular than Persona, but like by not much more. This, like, Persona 3 was probably in the like Atelier series of like that, like, hey, you might know this and you're pretty cool or niche if you know Persona 3. The game that ruined that for most people, though, was Persona 4. This little yellow devil made it really, really, really common, but you know what? I love him for it anyway. So Persona 4 is actually really special. This was back in the day, and I think people don't remember this as much, but Atlas was in no hurry to go to HD hardware. They were like, you know what? We've been using these really low resolution models for a long time. It's 2008. Let's just keep this game on the PS2. Who needs the fancy PS3 graphics? And God bless them for it. The game released in 2008 worldwide, or at least America and Japan for the PS2. And this was a funny one. For me, I remember playing it on my PS3 with backwards compatibility. And even though I had so many other games that looked better on my PS3, playing it winter of 2008 was like such a fun experience for me, because even though it was basically just Persona 3 but yellow, those quality of life features made such a difference. The cast I connected with so much more. And even though I started with like Revelations, like 4 after all of these years still holds such a special place in my heart. Just curious, who here actually started with PS2 Persona 4 and not Golden? Does anyone have a preference? Do you like original over Golden, or are you like, they're there? There are those people out there, like OG Chie way more than new Chie. It's a divisive war out there.
I do prefer OG.
So everyone's different, so I'll let you say. There's no wrong answer. Why do you like OG Chie more?
I don't know, it just caught me off guard. It was a VA or something. Something about it just caught me off guard from the first.
I don't remember the actor's name, unfortunately, because I'm a terrible host, but I will never forget Persona 4 and PS2. Teddy is not the high-pitched character mascot, well, not as high-pitched as he is now in Golden and other games. He is the same voice actor as Kakashi, and as a big Naruto nerd at the time, I could never unhear that. And it was always so funny to me to be like, man, it's really weird that like the super cool like one-eyed ninja from Naruto is also just a big goofy bear who's horny all the time. But hey man, 2008 voice acting time. So
One-eyed ninja was also pretty.
that's true. That is very, very true. So Persona 4 was like kind of the culmination of right place, right time. In Japan, in the West, it had that word of mouth. Obviously, the PlayStation 2 had over 100 million units sold at this point. And it was just like that thing of, hey, this is like one of the best RPGs. And it's kind of funny, when people say like the best RPGs of all time on the PS2, I don't think Persona 4 gets really included a lot there, which is not really a quality of like, oh, it's not that it's that good. I think it's two factors. One, most people would just tell, hey, go play Golden at this point. It's a lot more accessible. And two, the PS2 is just such a mammoth for RPGs in general that it's like there are so many exclusive ones that are just stuck on that system. Like, I'm going to be like, hey, man, Dot Hack, Xeno Saga, all these other things like that. But like, it was in really high regards, but even at that time, people still were like, hey, this is something really, really special. And we got spin-offs, manga, anime, so many things. And while others called it milking, I always thought it was so funny of like, there was never anything that came out of Persona 4, at least from Atlas. We're not going to count like the mobile like cell phone games or the like pachinko gotcha stuff. Like, we're not going to count like the stuff that's not made by them, but like for the most part, they've had a lot of high effort stuff that came out of it. Yeah.
How about that one Persona 3 mobile game that was just with the Igus?
Oh yeah, it's either like side mission Igus or like mission Igus or something like that. Yeah, Persona 3 actually has the most cell phone games from Japan. I might just been because it was part of that era. But yeah, Persona 3 had a lot. There was like a online social sim one as well, where you could make your own Gekukon High student, and none of them are great. I've played them all. They're not backed up anywhere. Know it. You're all cool, not missing anything. So next up, we've got our quick little rundown of ports, PSP stuff, and all that other fun jazz. Who here played any of the PSP games for Persona? So Atlas just really, really went ham with it, and they did the most confusing release order possible. They did Persona 1, Persona 3 Portable, Persona 2 Innocent Sin, and then said, haha, just kidding, Japan only gets Eternal Punishment. Do you all, I guess this will be our first prize question of the actual panel. Who knows what year Eternal Punishment released in Japan for PSP? Yep.
2012.
All right, who do you like more, On or Ryuji?
On.
All right, come up here and get your prize. Catch. It's neither. It's a Ghost of Tsushima pen.
Just keep it. I've already got like 5 of these.
That's okay. We can reuse it later. He clearly hates Ghost of Tsushima. So yeah, it came out in 2012, and at that point, the PlayStation Vita was out. Sony was ready to take the world by storm. They said, PSP, who needs you? No, in actuality, the only reason we never got Eternal Punishment in the West is because most people don't know this, but to make games and have localized builds, the original devs still need to work on it in some way, shape, or form. So that source code, there's work Japan has to do to get a English version, at least at the time. I'm sure things are a little bit more streamlined and everything now, but 2012, Atlas Japan says, nope, you're not getting it, even though it's not their market to sell to, because they were like, hey, we know PSP games get pirated all the time. Like, you're gonna make us like $10,000. Who really cares about finishing up this duology? Spoilers, everyone cared about finishing up that duology. It was also doubly embarrassing because Atlas West really wanted to finish it, because that was like their last big PSP game, and their only make good to that was, hey, here's the PS1 version. Give us $6 and please don't ever ask us about this port ever again, which we, I guess, have done. But yeah, these PSP ones, though, are really interesting because outside of the Persona 2 duology, those are more similar to like a remaster you would see of touched-up visuals, new animated cinematics and stuff like that, voice acting. Persona 1, though, was definitely a lot more of a from-the-ground-up remake. It doesn't look as graphically impressive, but it's got a whole new tone visually, music-wise. We talked a little bit before this started, but yeah, the composer, Meguro, actually was the director for this. This was his first game directing, and if he's ever listening to this, which I'm sure he never will, this game gets a bad rap. I think that this is a great version of Persona 1, but it's just so different from the original that it's really easy to just have some people kind of dismiss it. And I've always liked how different it is, because at its core, it's really the only definitive way to play Persona 1 in the West, because we missed out on an entire quest line on the PS1 version because it was rushed out the door, so we missed the entire Snow Queen quest. So there's things that you're missing even if you play the original back on PS1 if you're trying to play this in English. So I always appreciated that. Oh, I thought you were talking to me, sir. So it's okay. So Persona 3 Portable is definitely a weirder one. It's the best selling out of all the PSP games, unsurprisingly. But because the game it was rendering from a PS2 was so much more, not graphically intensive, but memory-wise, it was going to be a 2 UMD game, or they had to make it a visual novel. And they decided to make it a visual novel, which for any of you out there, like for me, I didn't even realize until many years later, oh hey, Persona 3 Portable is just a visual novel with an RPG element at nighttime. Because what they did is they stripped out all of those 3D model environments for when you're not in Tartarus and just made them 2D maps and stuff. So what was so funny about that was they stripped away elements of Persona 3, but then they also, because of how much they were able to save on space with that, added a completely separate story of you being a female protagonist, which obviously wasn't the first with Persona 2. I think FemC for Persona 3 Portable is really, really special in a lot of ways because it was nice to have the choice. Like, obviously, if Persona 6 was only a female, it's cool, but I think, like, that's kind of the perfect middle ground of, like, hey, just let people pick who they want to have or who they want to date. Like, obviously, it would have been cool at the time, but they probably weren't going to do this. So, like, if I wanted to be male protagonist and still date Junpei, or female protagonist and get it on Mitsuru, that would have been cool at the time as well. But like, more choice the better, because really at the end of the day, your protagonist is mute, nothing you say matters, and all of your choices aren't going to really matter until you take a big long nap at the end of the game. Curious question though, who here prefers Portable as like their version for Persona 3? Because that's definitely me. Of like, I know you're missing out on some stuff for it. I know some people think missing out on the answer is a big deal. That is definitely a big story chunk you're not getting. You in the back though, why do you like Persona 3 Portable more? Yeah, you.
Just the Junpei.
That's true. Don't date Ken though. There is a chip in your game. If you do choose to date Ken, they will send the police after you. Although Atlas Japan, they can't be blamed for including that. They had two choices. It was either let you date Ken and be a big old creepo, or you were going to date Koromaru and then look even weirder. So yeah, Innocent Sin finally was our way to play Innocent Sin on Western titles officially, stuff like that. Really interesting, like, voice cast as well. Obviously, back then, Atlas kind of reused a lot of the same voice actors and stuff for it, but to have all those games finally be voiced and stuff was also a really, really cool moment. Next up, we're going to kind of blast through the popular spin-offs. Whose first game was Persona 4 Golden for the series? Now, keep your hand up if it was on the Vita. Way less people had their hands put down than I thought. That's awesome. Thank you so much. So, Persona 4 Golden came out, Vita 2012, basically became the thing people will recommend you for that system because it was just launch year, right place, right time. Basically, all the reasons Persona 4 did really well on the PS2 kind of translated over to the Vita, and because it was such an early title, had such lengths of, like, especially back when prices weren't crazy, the game was $20. So there was very little, like, kind of like barrier of entry. It's like, get the system, give you $20, here's a 100-hour RPG, really, like the flaws that you could really say are in Golden that, like, weren't in other ones are so minute. Thankfully, it did finally get a PC release in 2020. I'm sure it'll come to consoles eventually. Is anyone here, like, dying to play it either again or for the first time on PS4, Switch, anything like that? Who wants to play Persona 4 Golden on Xbox One? I appreciate the two of you being honest. Thank you. I know someone out there will find it on Game Pass. They'll be drunk at 2 in the morning and go, that's bright and yellow. I'll play that game. So, as we mentioned also earlier, Persona 4 had a lot of spin-offs. They're all canon. Don't ask why. Don't ask how. Canon's a tricky question you should never get into. So we have the fighting games by Arc System Works in the form of Persona 4 Arena and Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. The Etrian Odyssey team worked on the first-person dungeon-crawling Persona Q, and originally started by Dingo, the Hatsune Miku developers, the Project Diva developers, and then it was later taken in by Atlas P Studio internally, was Persona 4 Dancing All Night on the Vita. And next up, we got a little indie game. Some of you may have heard of it before. It's called Persona 5. If you booed, you're officially a heel. So, who played this on PS3? There's always like one or two. I appreciate them. I appreciate the folks out there who were like, I don't need your fancy steelbook or your 1080p graphics. I'm playing this puppy in 720p with long load screens. So after many years of delays, development issues, and honestly just like reworking the game like crazy, Persona 5 finally released in 2016 in Japan and in 2017 in the West. My brain's asleep. It's 11 o'clock at night. Who here, this is a weirder trivia one, but I'll give you a prize for this one, and I promise it won't be the Ghost of Tsushima pen. Who here knows what September of 2016 has that special to Persona? Because there was something that lined up with its release as well. Yeah.
Wasn't there like an earthquake that happened?
No, I mean like fun game-wise news lined up. There may have been an earthquake, but I would have thrown that out. Yeah, you.
Like, are we talking like another game?
No, tied to Persona and Atlas. What would have happened in September of 2016?
Wasn't it like the 20th anniversary or something?
Yes, it was the 20th anniversary. You can pick either one of these 4 pens and take it. Yeah, so if you start up Persona 5, it has a splash screen that shows all the school's emblems, and it says Persona 20th anniversary.
Was that only in the original release and not in...
Yes, that's only in the original and not in Royal. Because in Royal, they don't care about history. They say, no, history's for nerds. We're only here about the new stuff, and give me Dr. Maruki. Yeah, exactly. So Persona 5 basically took that success and all that goodwill kind of earned up through spin-offs, anime, different things like that with Persona 4 and just cranked it to 11. And what was so interesting about Persona 5 was it sold incredibly well, has an amazing lineage in terms of its game, but I think when you compare it to Persona 4, something people don't really talk about a lot is I know people who are like, I love dancing, I love Q1, I love Arena, I love the anime. There's not those defenders for Persona 5. Like, Persona 5's lineage in terms of an IP was a lot sloppier. The anime is expensive garbage. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. So it's not as well remembered as even the Persona 4 Golden anime. Like at least that one you can kind of laugh at and stuff, even without a dub. Obviously, the Persona 5 dancing game was overly priced at the time. Tons of like a messier reputation than Persona 4 dancing had. Q2, great game, but then that was a weird one of like too late. Like that should have probably been on other systems by 2019. So it's always been weird of like Persona 5 is without a doubt the most popular game in the entire series, but it doesn't have like as squeaky clean as like I don't think in 10 years people are going to be as nostalgic for Persona 5 as people were 10 years after Persona 4. Like there are just different things like that. And obviously each game, everything's kind of different with it. I definitely am always kind of surprised how much I like Persona 5. You know what? Here's an interesting one, because I am always curious about this. Hold your hand up if you think Persona 5, and we'll count Royal in the same situation, is your favorite game of all time, hands down. It's like it's the best game ever. So all of you have your hands up. Come to me after the panel. I'm going to ask you all other RPGs that are better, and we're going to make you feel bad about that being your answer. No, I'm only kidding. So I always find it so interesting because, like, I, as someone who reviewed the game actually as like a critic, I love it. I genuinely love this game. It's like one of the best 7s I've ever played. So the 10s blow my mind, but like I'm a weirdo who like I'm hyperly critical of like things like that probably other people don't get bothered by. Like I hate the flashback mechanic of this story. I never want to go back and talk to Sai 13 times for every other little thing with it. But then I can also say it's gorgeous, the music's great, the characters are fun. So it's definitely going to be one that's kind of like fun to like look back on as time goes by. And obviously, due to things like Smash Brothers, its lineage is going to be remembered by so many more people than you probably would otherwise. Yeah.
I think personally what made it so like even though I kind of prefer like SMT over Persona 5, but what made it so fun was as someone who's not too into RPGs, what made it so fun was how immersive it was.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the compounds which weren't the best, but I think because of that, how it tried to really get you engaged with everybody, what made it so fun was how immersive.
Yeah, I mean, for everything it adds to the series, it's kind of funny of like they keep bringing so many new features to it that make it harder to go back to past titles. So like while Persona has like a bad reputation of like, oh my god, no one plays 1 or 2, it's not because they don't want to play 1 or 2, it's mostly because most of them aren't available. And also they play so differently because it's evolved so far over time. Although I would love it if someone like let's say if just Atlas released Persona 1 tomorrow, the idea that someone's going to be like, they're not going to complain, where's my social links? They're going to go, where's the hostage mechanic? That's the best part of Persona 5 that no one talks about. Where's the hostage situation? Here we go. So here are some forgotten ones we'll blow through. Persona 3, Dancing in Moonlight, Persona 5, Dancing in Starlight, and Persona Q2, long subtitle, I forget. Outside of Persona Q2, which I did recommend, the dancing ones, like I said, are super dirt cheap. If you have a Vita, that's the best way to play them, in my opinion. They look gorgeous on PS4. I'm sure they'll be ported eventually, but they're probably in no hurry, and God knows they're still going to chop it up piecemeal. But I think, like, if you could get all those games, that's like 60, 70 tracks for $20. It's fun. There's story modes for 3 and 5. Avoid them like the plague. They're just fan service at its best. I'm sorry, at its worst. Like for that, the story in 4 dancing is really, really good. But yeah, 3 and 5, check them out if you have not. They get a really, really bad rap, but definitely don't deserve it. Who here actually has a physical copy of Persona Q2? So like either yesterday, I think it was yesterday, a publisher up in, a distributor, a store up in Canada actually had a whole bunch of copies of Persona Q1 and 2 go on sale. Because with 3DS stuff getting a lot more rare recently, Q2 was the last retail release in the West. And what was so funny was like most people missed it because they're like, I don't really want to play it. I'll get to it eventually. Then they all sold out and were going for well above market price for it. So more copies are out there. If you do have a 3DS and you are interested with it, it's not as morbidly expensive. And they still hold digital 3DS sales quite a bit. Now here's the more current ones you guys are all probably aware of. Persona 5 Royal released October of 2020 in Japan, and in 2019 in Japan, and then had the most perfectly tied to the pandemic release date in the West of March 2020. Actually, just kind of curious, who played this, whether either you were in quarantine or just the start of quarantine, like who played Royal at launch in the West? This was my like cursed way I had to play this because I'm a terrible fan. I had actually not beaten Persona 5 until 2020. So this is what happened in terms of it leads into our next game. Persona 5 Strikers released a month before Royal in Japan in February. It was 2/2/2020. And I played Persona 5 to completion. Then I imported and played Persona 5 Strikers. And then I played Persona 5 Royal in the span of like maybe a month and a half. And you would think maybe I'm burnt out on it or I hated it because of that, but it was one of those funny things of I loved comparing how different Royal was to the other ones. Because there were things like people forgot are new in Royal. Because they would add really tiny minor things of like they'd voice cutscenes that weren't voiced before. Like one of the big ones that stood out for me was it's after you meet Madarame and stuff, and there's the scene of you're on the train heading back and the kid comes up to Morgana and like, is your cat talking? And you can do one of the things where you button mash the head, and they actually had that like voice that time, and it was so funny of like, wow, like little touches like that went a long way, but if you didn't remember that as new, you might kind of take that for granted. Yeah.
Joker had a grappling hook in Smash before Royal came out.
Okay, let's be honest, everybody. No part of having the grappling hook in Royal made that game any better. It was like the most useless. Like, who's thinking, you know what I loved in Persona 5 Royal? Collecting those 3 seeds. That really added a lot of background. That had a lot of lore.
Real defining.
Okay, here we go. We'll do a piece of Persona 5 Royal trivia for another Persona 5 giveaway. So, as most of you remember, from Persona 5 Royal, each dungeon was subtly changed or reworked to be less terrible, which was appreciated, because the dungeons in 5 are really sloppily uneven. Like, some are great, some are way too long, some are way too short, and don't know what the definition of padding out puzzles mean. So what was so nice about it was that they changed things around except for one dungeon and one final boss. So every final boss in every area had a new phase, new something. What's the one boss that didn't get anything new or area, if you can remember the name any easier? Yes, you in the back.
That would be Futaba's dungeon, but the Sphinx.
I'm sorry, no, the Sphinx had new stuff. The Sphinx had boss stuff added, yes.
No, it was Size Dungeon.
Size Dungeon also had new stuff as well. You.
It was Mementos and Yaldabaoth.
Yes. Mementos Depths, otherwise known as, oh my god, in this game 30 hours ago, please. By the way, pick up any one of these 3 if you want. Mementos Depths was my least favorite part of Persona 5, so when I got to it in Royal, I was like, oh, thank God. They have a chance to redeem my least favorite dungeon in the game. And all they did was add a couple of grappling point hooks and called it a day. And I just facepalmed so hard because it was clearly like Royal's budget was this. Here's Royal's budget. Here's everything after they made the 3rd semester. It was like, okay, we're going to sprinkle little things. Do you want to play as Kasumi? You can really only play as her like twice. It's like a demo disc. I hope you get to that 3rd semester because like Kasumi just not going to get anything.
It was the best demo.
Demo discs don't come with DLC. That's all I'm saying. Like, imagine if you bought Kasumi's DLC costumes and then you didn't unlock the 3rd semester. You're like, what was the point of this? I mean, it's like, you can kind of say that with Akechi, because Akechi costumes are also weird, but it's also like, you know like when you're going to get him or whatnot for it. So, yeah, Royal, boy, that could be its own kind of fun panel. Royal is still definitely the definitive way to play it. Shout out to the the My Palace mode. I feel like people don't ever talk about how fun that was in terms of just a cool place to like hang out, check out art, play the card game. Anyone who actually liked Tycoon, shout out to all of you. Persona 5 Strikers was also finally released in the West in 2021, and Does anyone know who the development team was? It was not the Persona team. Yep. You can go. Yeah, either one of you.
Wasn't it Koei Tecmo?
Koei Tecmo was the owner of that development team. Does anyone know the name of that dev team themselves? Omega Force. Here you go. If you want to either Ghost of Tsushima or an on-pen. So yeah, Omega Force, most people know them for Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors, Warriors Orochi, but they've done many, many other games that aren't just press square to win games. And as a huge Omega Force fan, I'd make this trivia, but I know no one here. If anyone knew this beforehand, please get all the cool points. The director of Persona 5 Strikers, his last couple of games were the Toukiden games. So Toukiden is basically Koei Tecmo and Omega Force's version of Monster Hunter. Feudal era Japan with like summoning demons and fighting Onis and like different things like that. So this was a team who had primarily made Monster Hunter fighting bosses, which makes a lot more sense when you think of how spongy a lot of the bosses are in Strikers. They're not meant to be like Mash X Win or things like that. And it was really fun of like Strikers was such an interesting blend of hack and slash, but it still felt like an RPG. The way you could swap out, like having all four of the playable characters was such a smart move. Also, shout out to them, because spoilers, Strikers is my favorite thing Persona 5 related by a countrywide mile. The best part about it was the story was benefited so greatly because this being the first real sequel that is after the game, and they're not all in a dream world or something, everyone's already best friends. You don't have to go through, hey, forehead girl, where were you through a fourth of this game? It's like you already are all friends and everything else like that. The only characters you get introduced to, you're introduced to them very early with Sophie and Zenkichi. So everyone, you have that bond. You have the like familiarity with everything. So it's really, really nice. And also, like, I know I've said that a bajillion times. Shout out to Zenkichi. He's like my favorite Persona 5 character. If you like Zenkichi's English voice actor, you have very good taste. He was the male protagonist in Mass Effect Andromeda. Not a great game, but good performance. He was, I think it was Ryder is his name if you want. Like, he was Octodad in Octodad. And then if you want the most cool credits of all time, who did he follow up Zenkichi with in the same year? He was the voice of Bunger in Bugsnax. So if you've ever like that, man, Zenkichi is so badass, just think he also got paid probably just as much to say Bunger, 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 Bunger. All right, I think that's it for our games. Now, on to the actual anniversary at the 37-minute mark. Not as long as I thought we would be to get here. So Persona 5 was, okay, well actually it's tied to it. Persona turned 25 last year, September, and they are still celebrating it with multiple announcements, multiple events. There's actually been one this week that Atlas West had of live presentations, announcing things, mostly merch, lots of live events, mostly in Japan, and I want to kind of go through these with you. If you've been following these, this was a thing that started in September of 2021 and is scheduled to go all the way up until fall of 2022. So we're going to go through all of the announcements in terms of what they really were. If you all have opinions on them, please raise your hand. Let me know if you love them, hate them, think they're a bad idea. So yes, Persona turned 25, and outside of merchandising, we started in September of 2021, and they started with a bang, everybody. Who remembers how Atlas Japan said, all right, Persona's 25, it's September. We're starting off with the bang. What did they do in September for a major announcement? Nothing. Their announcement was an announcement of, guys, we've got a concert that none of you are going to go to, and we're going to sell you merch. We'll see you in December. That's a baller move. That's a you know you've got them by the short ones if you're doing stuff like that. So next up was December of 2021.
Oh.
Who remembers what was the announcement for December 2021? Yes.
Was that the one where they were announcing the merch stuff?
No. Do you want to go ahead and say what it was? It was Ultimax. Do you remember where they announced Persona 4 Arena Ultimate? The Game Awards would have been a great answer.
No, really?
It was actually the pre-show to the Game Awards. It was almost good enough for the main show. We had to get like the pre. Jeff Keighley was too busy,
I just
man.
remember watching the Game Awards with this guy right here. We're like, Persona, and then it said Atlas. Like, yeah. And then it was Ultimax. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so for all the fighting game fans out there, because as we mentioned, Persona 4 Arena Ultimax came out after the PS4 was out, but it was a PS3 and 360 only. We finally got a modern console version, even though technically now it's on last gen, for Persona 4 Arena Ultimax on PS4, Switch, and PC with Steam. It included most of the DLC, the licensed anime songs from the Persona 4 and Golden anime they weren't able to include. Well, not that they weren't able to. It cost money in them. Hey man, who's got time for money? But it's got all the stuff you would want. It has all the DLC characters, all the stages, all the color skins. It had the glasses DLC. We paid for that back then. There was little pixel glasses DLC, and I went, $2. You got it. I'm buying that. But now you don't have to. It's $30. If you were remotely interested or like Persona 3 or 4, it includes the entire story from the first arena. It's really bad, but it's all there if you want to play it. $30, great package. The only problem, one of the worst release timings possible. $30 was awesome, but it was digital only. And how many of you are digital only Atlas fans? I'm assuming we like our collector's editions. We like our steelbooks. We like having the art books, the soundtracks. So to be told that, hey, happy anniversary, I'm emailing you something. Also, it's going to be $30. Was kind of a kick in the nads, but there was a physical version released in Asia, just with no English support, unfortunately. Yeah.
Like there was another thing that kind of like filled like where there's no rollback, like especially for fighting games, like people like I remember there was a lot of hype for it. People loved P4AU. It's a great fighting game, but then they're like no rollback until.
Yeah, what are we, Smash Brothers? What are we supposed to be playing on this kiddie internet? So. Yeah, so that's a future announcement, but I appreciate the rollback. The rollback conversation is very important. So yeah, people who are not aware, rollback is not exclusive to Walmart deals. Rollback is also a term for netcode. And basically, if you are a halfway remotely serious fighting game and you don't have rollback netcode, people will roast you into the ground because they think it is the easiest thing ever to implement. Also, shout out to the new JoJo Bizarre Adventure, All-Star Battle Royale. I love that not having rollback and people freaking out means like Arena I got. That's an actual like serious fun time fighting game. JoJo All-Star Battle, I kind of put that up there with like the party fighters, like a Naruto or whatever. So like, hey, I appreciate, I want all the games to have rollback too, but Atlas has had a couple of different stances with rollback. This was the director Wada, well actually the producer director Wada had a comment saying, I wanted to make this the definitive version of Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. But if you want rollback, let us know by buying it, and we can put it in there, which is the ultimate FU hostage situation that people hate. Because it's like, hey, hope you like this game, because if you don't buy it, it's your fault, it's dead. We were kind of there. So, like, it wasn't even like he was saying that about, like, Persona 5 Arena. It was like, if you want this game to have good online, because if any of you have online experience with Ultimax, God bless Arc System Works. They were garbage at netcode back then. The game, if you've not played it online now, PC's a lot more iffy. Switch is kind of whatever. That's more of a Nintendo thing. PS4 netcode has been way more improved than original PS3, so it's not like it's unplayable, but we will be getting to rollback as an update as well later. But rollback is coming summer. No real announcement. I'm assuming they'll just be lazy and announce it at EVO, because that seems like the most appropriate time, even though the game's not at EVO. But yes, Ultimax is out. All of us fighting game nerds are excited. Digital only, except for Japan. It's dirt cheap, by the way. It's actually cheaper to import a physical copy of this game than to buy it digitally. It's $27 for a physical copy, just because of economy, I guess. So there were more announcements. I couldn't just blue ball you there. We've got merged. So Persona 5 Strikers and Persona 5 Royal soundtracks finally became streamable. If you have any streaming service, you can listen to them that way. Merch, vinyls, stuff like that. Did anyone here buy the $500 vinyl set?
I wanted to.
I appreciate that. Yeah, you in the back.
Oh, you were asking about the vinyl set. I got it.
Okay, who here bought the Persona 5 vinyl way back when, the deluxe version that is the full soundtrack. Both of you have made wise financial investments. I just want to congratulate both of you. So next up, the third announcement is kind of a half step. For February, does anyone remember what the February announcement was? Yeah.
Wasn't it the Superline?
No, that was the most recent one. This was half a Western announcement and half a there's no real news, so we have to think of something quick. They announced rollback for Ultimax literally like a week before the game came out digitally because there was no hype. Oh, well, like I said, bad release timing. This was out in March. People were still freaking out over Elden Ring. People were playing Horizon, like all these huge AAA games. Kirby. People are dying over Kirby. We're not playing Ultimax right now. So it was just a terrible time for release and sold really, really soft and stuff for it. So I think they saw the writing on the wall and were like, okay, we got to tell these kids rollback is coming soon or else they're going to crucify our game. Yeah.
They, if you look at the rollback announcement, I remember because I saw it. I was watching it, and the guy's sitting in like a back room, like you can see wires behind him. And, like,
It was the most phoned in. Like they were like, okay, make it not look like a hostage video, but make it clearly look like you had to do this right away. And for Japan, they also announced an exclusive FES festival happening right now. It's basically more like a pop-up shop. There's exclusive merch there. It's like a fan meetup kind of thing. If you want to see life-size standees, they have like a life-size Johanna from Persona 5, like her motorcycle's there. There's a lot of cool stuff. There's like a life-size model of Thanatos, Arsene, a bunch of really, really cool stuff. But it is one of those weird ones of like, man, be cool if everyone else around the world got a chance to celebrate that, but we'll get to that soon because they do have some Western events, and I'd be curious what a room full of Midwesterners think about that. So next up was Volume 4. We did spoil ourselves for it. If you all haven't seen this, because if you've noticed the thumbnails for these videos kind of tease what it's about. If you saw this one day, it's like 2 a.m, Midwest time, you see this video get uploaded. No context. You see Dancing All Night, Teddy, and Dancing Morgana. What do you think was going to be in this announcement? Joke's on you, suckers. Here's a paid concert I want you all to watch. So they announced the P Sound Wish 2022 2-day concert extravaganza. This one will no longer be free like the previous ones were. This will be fully streamed. You can obviously be there if you're in Japan, but it is a 2-day concert that is mostly split up into Persona 3 and 5 music on one day, 4 and 5 music on the other, with sprinklings of 1 and 2 probably, and maybe if we're lucky, Trinity Souls, but let's be honest, it probably won't be there. This is cool if you've ever seen any of the P Sound or P Live concerts. They're really, really awesome. There's usually announcements. Even though they're awesome, I think making your entire announcement about a paid event that most people probably won't go to or at least won't watch legally was pretty weak, especially because this was an event that was added after they had to delay basically the February announcement and then another announcement of more exciting news for it. So concert's cool. It's great. We all know the series is awesome music, but it is one of those things like it's not a get hype moment. You're like, because remember, they're now like if this was just something they announced on Twitter, that'd be one thing. They told us 2 months before this, hey, we've got news for you in April. All right, baby, let's get it go. Oh, okay. I'll see you in October, I guess. So, to blow all of our standards out of the water, Atlas West said, hold the phone, Daddy-O. By the way, all these things I've been announcing previously were all Atlas Japan only. Outside of some merch stuff like the vinyl, this was all by Atlas Japan. Atlas West had nothing to do with this. Atlas West, this is how they celebrated the anniversary so far of September. Merch, digital wallpapers, and Ultimax. That was it. They were like, hey, listen, what do you expect from us? I've got $20 as my shoestring budget. But they said no more. The West must be heard. We will have a exclusive West-focused one for merch and events. Basically telling us all, don't expect games. They actually announced it 2 hours before it went live. So they were like, no hype. We're not going to Japan this. Japan's stupid. Japan's telling you to wait for the next announcement like it's going to be their third E3 of the year. But when in reality, they're like low-budget state of plays, but somehow have less information. So Atlas West warned us, and I think they did a good job, but I'd be curious what you all think here. They announced, I hope you all are going to Anime Expo because all of our 25th anniversary events are all happening in Anaheim, California at Anime Expo a month and a week from now. And I hope you all have tickets because that's one of the most expensive places to go and travel to in America. And if you're not going to get the chance to sit on the Persona couch. There's Persona Boba, there's Persona Macaroons. You could eat Teddy. So everyone here, I don't know if you all saw this video, so it's all Anime Expo. So it's cool if you're going to Anime Expo, but I don't got a month and a half, I don't got a month and a week to budget to fly out to Anaheim to make it all work. So it really stinks that, like, I'm glad they're doing something. It's cool that they're having these fan events. There's going to be like parties, drinking, like there's themed ramen shops, there's pop-up shops, cafes. It's a lot of cool stuff, but it really felt more to me like, oh God, we told Anime Expo we'd be there 3 years ago, and now we have to do something over the course of July. All right, let's just get all of the people we know, because Atlas West is obviously located in LA and stuff. So it's cool, but like, is anyone in here going to that? Is anyone here excited for that? Like, what are we going to look on Twitter and go, man, that Morgana smoothie looked good? Yeah, so if you didn't know, I'm sorry I've now ruined your anniversary. That was the most exciting recent anniversary stuff for it. But yeah, I'm glad they announced more stuff. There's pens, there's Teddy socks. I will warn you, I have these Teddy socks. They were sent to me. If you're a man who has basically, unless this is the size of your leg, that sock will stretch out like Gumby. It is not meant to be worn by burly boys or burly girls out there. But they're cute Teddy socks nonetheless. Next up will be the June announcement. And, really at this point, guys, it's like, how much can we get cucked in one anniversary before we're like, I don't even know what to... Like, predictions used to be like, Persona 6, Persona 4. Like, the April announcement for the concert literally happened on Golden Week. So all the conspiracy theorists like, it's got to be now, guys. Golden's coming to Switch. It's Golden Week in Japan. It has to be Persona 4 Gold. Oh, it's a concert. So I want to kind of ask all of you, raise your hand, do you have any predictions of what you can say what you want to see or what you expect to see. Because really at this point, I'm up for either one. Yeah.
I need that 3 remake.
Is it gonna come on? We're talking about Teddy socks. You think we got the budget for a Persona 3 remake? You'll be lucky if you get a Persona 6 reveal teaser that's not made on like actual sock puppets at this point. You. Well, literally this week they did announce a Persona 5 themed gambling game.
Are you kidding?
Actual gambling machine for us to smoke and lose our life at in Japan, like a full-on gambling Persona 5 themed thing.
That was my joke answer.
I'm sorry, it's real. Yes. Yep.
My hope is P5A. My prediction is a gotcha game.
Unfortunately, P5A is the animation, so your dream is true. But the gotcha game, I don't know if you all I don't like gotcha games 99% of the time, but I'm like it's just like the way games are now. Like it's one of those things. I just know eventually we're gonna get Persona Gotcha. It's it's literally it makes itself. The characters, the personas, everything else like that. You.
So, well, I think it's gonna happen like from June to October. It's like pins, the ice cream thing, whatever. But I remember they had a thing for ice cream.
Guys, I didn't even include there was Persona mouthwash as part of an announcement. We're like. Our joke answer, like if I told you guys the July announcement was a Persona condom, it might be real. We don't even know. It's not even gonna be a condom. It's just a little plastic sleeve. If you open it up, it just starts playing the Velvet Room tune. Like, if you stay erect during that, like, song, you've got problems, probably. So, yeah, any other predictions, high hopes, low hopes?
At some point in the anniversary, I bet they'll re-release some of the other games. Like they've already re-released Arena and 4 now, so I'm pretty sure that they'll do at least 3, hopefully 2.
Yeah, so 4 is definitely coming. Like, they've been working on those for a long time. And the thing that I've always heard from asking people who've been involved with it is basically they want to sell 4, but they know it would make more sense to, like, do a anniversary bundle of do 3 and 4. And you don't, like, selling 4 on PC on its own didn't really tamper into that. And it'll be nice to have that all on consoles as a whole thing with it. But then the $1 million question is, 4 is easy. You just include Golden. What do you do for 3? Do you do Fez? Do you do Persona 3 Classic and make everyone mad? Do you do Portable and tell everyone, I hope you like visual novels and stop being a big baby? They're not going to remake it. I'm sorry. They're not going to, all right, we're going to make the most HD textured mod. It's Persona 3 Fez, but we included the story elements from Portable, and we included FMC in HD with a little PS2 model. Like, no, we're not going to get like that, like Omega port.
No, it's going to be like the graphics like Persona 5 Royal.
But I'd be curious, like, so for you guys, like I said, Persona 3 is coming. Like, Persona 3 and 4 will be coming at some point. Like, is there one you guys want more than the other? Like, I guess raise your hand if you want it to be Fez. Raise your hand if you want it to be Portable. You're on the right side of history. I won't say who, but you're on the right side of history with that.
Fix the commands and Fez.
That's another one. Again, kind of like I talked about, going back is hard with this series because of how it evolves. If you just gave people Persona 3 Fez, you would be seeing so many people like, why is Mitsuru not doing what I want her to do? She's not listening to me. What's happening? Yes.
What I really want is P6, but at this point I will settle for at least like a TCG or something.
Did anyone here collect the Persona 4 or 5 Weiss Schwartz cards way back in the day? Yo, shout out to the two of you for making me not be the only one here. Those are so expensive now. Like, I know most Weiss Schwartz stuff is really expensive because they're really low print run. I went out of my way. I own every single Persona 4 one. I don't know why. I just didn't care about 5. 5 is actually kind of a weaker set because it mostly just uses like in-game art assets, whereas like 4 was cool because the Weiss Schwartz set, it took art from Persona 4 on PS2, Golden, the anime, original like commissioned art, and like Arena as well. There was even in Japan a deck they made just for Persona Q. Like those cards are like really, really sick. Although Weiss Schwartz, that's like its own other panel I can't even get into. Yeah.
A bit more of a hope rather than a prediction, but maybe like an anniversary collection for Revelations to Eternal Punishment.
It makes the most sense, right? Like you bundle the, like even just the PSP ones, just get those PSP ROMs, call it the Revelations collection, charge $30 to $40 for it, and it would make everyone happy. But then the problem is, that's the cheapest thing to do, but I think it would just then kind of like Ultimax, it would make everyone wonder why not just do the one that'll make the most money first.
Yeah, because to be honest, it's just that the issue I have is how, at least for me and probably some others, how inaccessible some of the Persona games can be. But yet the SMT games, I can get like a bunch of them on the 3DS. I just kind of wish I had something like that with Persona games.
I mean, to be fair, SMT has its own baggage of, hi, I'm new to the Shin Megami Tensei franchise. I'd like to play 1 and 2 legally, please. And then Atlas just laughs at you and says, no, you don't. Yeah.
Goal. My overall goal would be just like how they're combining all the music from 1 to current.
Mhm.
Is that they do the same for games, and it's like super shiny and deluxe and remastered and all that other stuff. That's my goal. My prediction for June is that it's just gonna be more like hints and bits of future projects that they're gonna try to squeeze in, and it's probably just gonna be a bunch of nothing with a hint of something.
Yeah. I'd be curious, who here at this point, is anyone here kind of on the side of like, I like this series, but I want it to come to X platform? Because obviously we see that a lot online of like, People want Persona to come to Switch. People want other things to come to other platforms like PC or whatnot. Is there anyone out here, though, who because I'm a broken man. I'll follow games I like to any platform. You put it on the Neo Geo, I'll take it to the Neo Geo. So, I'm wondering, are there people out there who are like, hey, if I don't have a PS... here's a great example. There's a collection. All these collections we just talked about are announced in June. Only on PS5. What's your guys' reaction to that? That'd be the funniest thing too. Is a PSP collection only on PS5. I'll be like, hey man, I don't know what you expected from us at this point. So, like I said, really expect anything. Always go into these expecting as little as humanly possible, and you'll never be disappointed. Hopefully, yes, in the back.
I was going to say, mentioning the PS5, this would be a hope, but it would be lovely to have a collector's PlayStation 5 that's Persona 25.
Oh yeah, a special edition system.
Yeah.
Has anyone here ever seen? There was never a Persona 4. Okay, well there kind of was. For Persona 5, there was never a release that was a special edition system, but they did one for Royal in Japan. There was a PlayStation 4 Slim and a PlayStation 4 Pro that was all themed to Royal, and they also had Persona 5 themed controllers. They came in white and black variety. They're really, really nice and probably stupidly expensive right now, but really, really cool ones because of how far out our release was for it and the fact we were never going to get those in the West. They're a cool little collector's item thing for sure. But yeah, honestly, I cannot recommend those enough. Because I've mostly just shit on merchandise and mouthwash for 20 minutes, I did want to give some reminders. Outside of all these games, if you have not or are not aware of them, there are other things to look forward to in the future. Who here picked up the Persona 5 art book that was released in the West and had one of the worst covers of all time? So it was published by Prima. It had Ryuji, Joker, and Yusuke. That actually wasn't the full art book. If you look the top right, that's the Japanese cover. That's finally getting brought out in the West this year by Udon. So Udon is releasing that, but what's cool about this will be, not only will it be translated and with all the artist commentary notes in English, it will actually have more content. It'll have content from Royal in it. So it'll be a P5 and Royal art book, compiling it all in there with it, kind of making it one ultimate edition, which will be really, really cool. Yeah.
So question on that, because they already have the P5 for the just vanilla in the art book, and I got the big one, not the
Mm-hmm.
almost 50 pages. So are they just gonna probably more or less just reuse the pages from the previous one into this one?
So these will be all basically taken for the P5 aspect of it. It'll be all taken from the Japanese version, translated, reformatted, stuff like that. And then all the Royal stuff will be new and exclusive to this one. So yeah, if you looked at the other previous English ones, this will be nothing like that. It'll obviously have some similar art, but it'll be laid out in a much more premium format, nicer print, commentary, stuff like that. Yeah.
It's very interesting because I got the base Persona 5 art book when it came out. It's $65. Now looking at it, they are a lot.
Yeah, they're really rare, and I think that kind of just comes from Persona 5 / that was a really late Prima release where they weren't doing a lot of them. Also, really weird one, Persona Q is finally getting an art book in the West in English. I have the Japanese one for Q1 and 2. They have so much art. They're really, really nice. This was announced 5 years ago, and I was talking to the guys at Udon last year, and I brought it up kind of as a joke, hey, remember when he announced this at Comic-Con? And he's like, it's happening finally. And it's just there's no crazy conspiracy story. It's just things get busy, and a 3DS art book is probably not the highest priority. But for a game that's so visually distinct as Q, I cannot recommend the art book enough. That will also be coming out. Other books that are now all out, believe it or not, the one in the bottom left is the Viz published Persona 5 manga. Who here has read that, or at least checked it out? Like I said, I like a lot of Persona 5. I'm very kind of iffy on the story. So far, it is the best adaptation of Persona 5. It cuts a lot of fat out, and the best part about it is this manga artist has been working on it since 2016, and it's still going on. So we are now at least in Japan, they have finished Futaba's palace and are working their way through the Okumura palace. And they are actually, because of the way Royal has been released and things introduced, it's also introducing Maruki, Kasumi. It has Royal elements. So it's going to be this kind of all-in-one stop of, like, assuming it never gets canceled, like, it will hypothetically include the third semester. And, like, the way that they've been doing fun things, they cut out the investigation. You're not constantly going back to Sai and be like, what do you mean you had dinner 2 times that night? So it does a lot of good things. There's a lot of good characterization. I cannot recommend that one enough. But it's not the best Persona 5 related story out there. That has got to go to Persona 5 Mementos Mission.
Yes.
That just came out. The 3rd volume came out this month. It's 3 volumes by the artist who did the manga for Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. Sadly, never came out in the West. It's a standalone story that just takes place during the events of Persona 5. Don't worry about canon. Like I said, canon doesn't matter. But it's a standalone story with these characters as you know them from the game. It's like, if you've ever thought, what if I wanted more of Persona 5, but without feeling like I'm being pandered to, or like an OVA, like it's just a more story with these characters, and it's in a really interesting kind of setup. Because the whole point of it is, think if, like, the side missions of Persona 5 were an actual story and interconnected with each other, hence why it's called Mementos Missions. I can't recommend it enough. It's 3. I wish it was more volumes. It's a really great story. The art is gorgeous. It's really, really good. I cannot recommend it enough. Weird loopy animation there. And we're done. And I spelled con wrong. That's a weird way to end it. So, everybody, thank you so much for showing up to this very late panel that I cannot believe. What a ding-dong. 3 minutes late. And I'm now 7 minutes over, so very sloppy. But thank you all for staying up so late, coming here, letting me ramble about Persona for way, way, way too long.